I was struggling to find some inspiration for a video I was working on, so I decided to head out for a drive. Went to the store, grabbed some bananas and my games to clear my head, give me some thought for it. Was driving around looking for something that would hopefully get me to some kind of joke, but all I could see in my head was image of the Kongs. Donkey, Diddy, Dixie, and Kitty alike. Funky and wrinkly too. All I could look around and say is, "Holy Jesus, what are these goddamn animals?" I didn't know where else to go. I couldn't have someone else drive. I was just me by myself. Me, my sunglasses, and my hat. So, I decided to stop somewhere. Hopefully to be able to rest for a second. I was about to give up when I realized, wait a minute. I can't stop here. It's Donkey Kong Country. No, wait. This is Donkey Kong Country. And so, I decided to get out of my car, walk around the local area. Because there was only one way I knew that I was going to be able to write this. I had to go and become monkey. So with my bananas in hand, I set out. I had my nanners, I had my manners, trying to figure out through all the ups and downers, everything to make the perfect video. Oh man, where do I start off with this? Well, actually, better question, how do I even start it? Because, like, let's be honest, everything that could have be said has already been well said and documented by people with much more talent than I do, but I'm gonna do my best. Look, Donkey Kong Country is one of those classic games, you know, one of the ones that people think when 2D platformers just come up. It's mostly the first two, depending on who you ask, but the third one's there as an existing thing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This entire series is innovative, it's challenging, it's fun, rewarding, it's all dong. I mean, it's Kong. You know what I mean. Now, that's a very basic description, but to be honest, every person ever known to the Banana Bird Queen herself has talked about the development of Donkey Kong Country and 3D models changing gaming, but no, I don't do that. I just want to talk about 3 really good games on Super Nintendo. And ballsy take, but this is what I would call the perfect trilogy. And I've played many a trilogy back in my day, but honestly, none have I found more enjoyable than these monkeypades. This isn't even nostalgia talking. I didn't even grow up with these games, and I barely beat them a few months ago. If you ask me, it starts pretty strong and just gets better and better. Now we're gonna go game by game, piece by piece, just to see what made it work. As for the Retro Studio games, I might talk about those some other day, but don't hold me to that, because I may just forget and maybe not do anything like this. But they're being acknowledged here, so they're not being left behind like K-Roll was. Funny joke. Yeah, too easy. But without any delay, let's grab your bananas, take a trip down to Donkey Kong Country. Now, right from the get-go, we can already see what this game is capable of in terms of graphical style and overall flair. You get a first-hand look on how everything just looks and moves. That's just the intro. It tells you that this isn't the Donkey Kong that the older generation grew up with. This is the new thing. This is new shit. This is dark web. Once you get into the game itself, things become a bit of a different story, because things are simple and straight to the point. A character named King K. Rool has stolen your bananas, and now you're off. Yes, we're off. We're off to save Christmas. We're off to save my bananas. And the game also feels different in how it moves, just with its sprites, opposed to the sprites standing still or with limited animation. Both Donkey and Diddy move differently, which also applies to how their enemies act. They're basically mirrors of the two. You have heavy, slower moving, absolute chunky units pacing around like your grandma after she fed you when she heard that you didn't eat for a while. To even the little what? No, what do you mean I can't say that anymore? Shit. God, what do we do? Coked up orphans? Can we do that? Yeah? Okay, cool. to even the cooked up little orphans of smaller characters. It's not much in terms of game design, but it does make you play each level different and take them out in completely different styles. It's adding a little bit of strategy instead of just running through. Well, granted, you can just run through, but just let me have my point. You could be cartwheeling the big boys like Clump as Diddy, or you can use your big body to maneuver around these faster enemies while you're even slower. It makes things worthwhile because, well, it's designed to be beaten with either character. It provides balance and fairness. That way you don't feel like you need one Kong. Granted, it's a lot easier if you have both and you can switch, but it's definitely not required. But that's enough of characters for now, because in these kinds of games, that's not entirely a major part of them. Let's talk a little bit about levels. Each area is so diversely crafted, from the changing skylines of the Congo jungle to the heavy industrial settings within Krem Krok Industries. And while it does use a lot of the same assets, making a lot of levels seem similar, hell, it had me confused for a few times, there's still enough within the levels themselves to distinguish them apart, making some really unique ones that, well, a lot of people would say it'd probably be lazy design. Or, you know, at least lazy by modern standards, because people have such a fucking high horse and need everything to have a new asset or texture or anything for every conceivable instance in the universe. Jokes aside, apart from a few select levels that are just forgettable or not well designed in my opinion, Donkey Kong Country is able to mix good level design with its creative environments to create this wonderful experience. There's so many good levels I can name off the top of my head. Coral Capers, Minecart Madness, Oil Drum Alley, Tanked Up Trouble, and I even grew to enjoy stuff like Vulture Culture, Elevator Antics, and Stop and Go Station. Honestly, there's only like 2 levels I can't really stand and wish they'd go commit Kong aside, but honestly, it really doesn't hinder the experience all that much. Each level is enhanced by their mechanics introduced and help them where they truly need it. And speaking of mechanics, there's no better mechanic to introduce in this game than Animal Buddies. They're basically Yoshis, except they're better than more than one thing, and that's dropping them into a pit. No, these things can actually do stuff. Rambi is a heavy boy. His horn can charge through things. Espresso is fast and he flies, or I guess falling with style. Winky jumps high. And I'm pretty sure he jumps on bees too. But that's about it. And On Guard is fast in the water where you're actually kind of slow. I don't like it. Those are just some of my favorite little additions because, well, they help, but they also don't feel like you need them. They're just another way for you to play the level in a different sense. Hell, they were even faster in some instances. It's a good idea. There's good stuff there. Something else the game does really well, in my opinion, is secrets. Granted, some of them are really bullshit hard to find and even get to, but for what they give you, I'd say it's worth it. They can give you things like extra lives, some bananas, Kong letters, and even these gold little Animal Buddy statues. Collect 3 of those and you get a chance at a bunch of extra bananas. Meanwhile, collecting all the Kong letters in a level will net you an extra life, but they're not needed as they're more of a reward for exploration. Hell, it's not even needed for 101%, which in order to get that, you just need to find and complete all the bonus rooms. That's easy. Doing all this allows for extra replay value, which in a game like a platformer, especially at the time, it's a welcome addition. And they really don't do it that often, at least in my opinion. Not to mention, the music is also one of those examples of classic game music. Oh my god. This and like any Mario game around the time, including like, I don't know, like 3 other NES and SNES games, they're like the pinnacle of this idea. And for good reason too. Like, they're the ones that everyone thinks about. Donkey Kong Country is no exception. It's what put Rare on the map in the music department. Because, like, let's be honest, before this, what they have? What? Battletoads? Jetpack? Saberwolf? They worked on Snake, Rattle, and Roll. Yeah, real riveting OSTs there, guys. But jokes aside, this is honestly a really high-tier soundtrack. Highly regarded for a reason. There isn't a track I don't know already. Granted, it's all reused throughout several levels, and including some overworld music, but it's so iconic you just can't help but get it stuck in your head. It really makes you think just like why Nintendo still uses it for their Donkey Kong editions within stuff like Smash and such. Stuff like Simian Segu, DK Island Swing, Aquatic Ambience, Fear Factory, Gangplank Galleon. God, those are some of my personal favorites and arguably the best ones. They really bridge the gap between normal SNES sounding music at the time and like actual songs. It's something else. It's beautiful. But for how much it does right and how much I've praised it, there's a few things it's lacking in. Considering how early it is and the fact that the series was just finding its footing, there are a few big ones. For one, some of the platforming can be a bit jank. And it makes some of the levels a bit more artificially difficult. Not impossible, but What else I'm not a big fan of is the big elephant in the room. And those are the bosses. The game's somewhat infamous for them, and for good reason. Yeah, a lot of them are just reused enemies, and there's not much to them. They're just not fun. I don't feel anything fighting something like very naughty or dumb drum. And honestly, this rings true for every single one. Except the king himself. Everyone already knows how great he is, so I'm not going to go over it. Hell, my great-grandma knows how great K. Rool is as a boss. She's not even alive anymore. Honestly, the satisfaction of beating him and getting your bananas back is a feeling not easily replicated in other games at the time. The fight itself is honestly a great escalation in terms of difficulty and a masterclass in platform boss design, if you ask me. Hell, it tricks you, and everybody knows that reveal of the fake credits. It's so good. The game's a great example of both classic game design, from levels, aesthetics, and everything else in between. It's often compared to something like Mario. Specifically Mario World on the SNES, though I can tell you that this is better than any Mario game around the time, and hell, even better than some that came after. It's still really solid and holds up today as a platforming king, I would say. But in some areas it also suffers from first game syndrome. I mean, you can't go wrong with Donkey Kong Country, it just needed some more to it in order to reach the peak.
I feel like I'm starting to find my footing here for this video. I'm getting ideas up the wazooski while I'm blazing here in the sun. I don't think I've found exactly what I needed. I know it'll help. Bananas always help with inspiration. And then there's Country 2. Maybe it'll give me an idea. Only one way to find out. I gotta keep moving.
Alright, here we go. The cream of the crop. The big kahuna of the trilogy. And look, I'm going to be straight up, this is my favorite and what I consider the best in the franchise. No contest. This basically takes what made the original so great, multiplied it by 10, and multiplied it by 10 again. Which is odd to say, because when on the surface, it seems like the same game. But trust me, everything is improved and or expanded upon here. Literally the if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. We actually start the game on the same ship K. Rool was. You know, it's even called Gangplank Galleon, which was the name of the level, so that's cool. While in the original game, the plot of K. Rool was stealing the bananas, and it was only in the manual, and you know that scene in the cave, here you basically get a ransom note from a pirate fella named Captain K. Rool, who's definitely not the old guy in disguise. From there, you're right into the fray. Each level here is consistent in both theming and design, a lot more than the last one. They rarely deviate from like what's already established. Each one introduces a new mechanic or helps improve one already established in the world. Of course with the occasional curveball, but you know, it's normally something just like a vehicle-centered stage or, you know, like, I guess the beehives, but those can be anywhere, so it doesn't really bother me. There's also new sections or even levels based around the animal buddies. Like Ratley gets an entire level basically. Squawks is able to fly solo, so he gets some stuff. There's a spider named Squitter who has some interesting and tricky platforming, you know, with his webs. Well, everyone else returning from the previous game, aside from Winky and Espresso, Rippin', Bird, and Frog. But that's just what makes them better. They actually get more spotlight instead of just being an assist. And again, they could be really tricky, but not extremely unfair. Aside from one certain level. Fucking animal antics, I hate you so much. I want you to die. But I find little problem with how they're implemented. I think with the levels that's also different is, well, the difference between Diddy and Dixie. They're both light characters and feel the same movement-wise. So you don't really have that imbalance of one heavy character and one light character, because they're both the same. There are bigger enemies, but both of them can be taken out if you just plot your course right. The main difference is that, well, Dixie can fly, or, again, falling with style. She uses her hair like a helicopter, and it's a real game changer. Makes for some interesting platforming. Diddy's no slouch either. He's still just as agile, or, you know, as much as he can. He seems to have gained a few pounds. He looks like roly-poly-oly, and he grew hair. And I could also be wrong, but I think he's slightly faster. His movement seems more natural, and he doesn't really slow down at things. Meanwhile, when you use Dixie's little spin dash move, she actually slows down some momentum a lot of the time. I don't know if that's just me, but that's what it seemed like. But you really need to play your cards right, or else you're going to get hit and die. Making it great, since all the levels can be beaten with both Kongs in mind, just like the last one. Except this one's just more of a convenience issue. God, I'm so excited. I don't even know where I want to go next with this. Well, I guess let's do music. It's honestly one of my favorites ever. Right from the title screen, you can tell that the sound has improved quite a bit. And, you know, what Rare at the time was truly capable of. It honestly sticks for the rest of the game. I'd say that there isn't a bad track in the game. Sure, there's a couple sleepers, I'll fully admit. But by no means bad. Stuff like Clomps, Romp, Jig Jib, Sticker Brush Symphony, and even little Funky's Flights theme. Even the bonus room has me jamming out every single time. I guess the next thing I should mention is the bosses. An obvious issue that I had with the last game, and, well, there's only one boss I actually despise. King Zing. You is a motherfucker! You know that? I'm sorry. I just really hate playing as Squawks in this. But aside from that, they're good to fantastic. Cleaver, Cudgel, and both K. Rool fights are real standouts. Yes, I said both, but I'll get to that in a second. Something else this game does really well is secrets. In the last game, honestly, the secret rooms weren't really that much. They just gave you a couple different items, and that was it. They didn't do nothing by completing them aside from getting that extra %. But aside from the Kong letters no longer being confined to bonus rooms, the bonus rooms actually give you new items. You have these things called Krem coins. And if you get enough of them in a world, you're able to unlock a place called the Kremling's Lost World. These are basically the final challenges of the game, so you best be on your guard and have some of the best platforming you've ever done to this point. They're hard. But completing everything gets you the true ending and the second K. Rool fight. See? I told you I'd bring it back. There's also these big gold DK coins that you can find per level, and let me tell you, some of them are a real bastard to get. They did a bang-up job making sure that you explore everything just to find that one secret you missed. Alright, fun time's over. Let's talk about negatives. I don't like the save system here. it's limited in your saves because you got to find these silver coins in the overworld as well, and you got to use them to pay for saves. It's kind of like ink ribbons in an RE game, if you want an example. But what's upsetting about this is that all your coins are reset upon restart. So, you got to go to bed, or, you got to do something else. Tough shit. Good luck. Hope you're good at the game and you're able to find 2 coins to even save or teleport. This doesn't help because Funky's flights cost 2 coins as well. At least until you get all the DK coins. So if you had a specific level, yeah, tough shit. Luckily, they're generous, but I'm bad at games, so I'm not a fan of this. I also don't like most of the animal buddies, which is gonna sound weird to say, considering that I just praise them for being a good addition or expansion if they were already established. But that doesn't mean I entirely like them. On Guard and Rambi are fine, like they've been fine for forever, but I hate the bird, the snake, and the spider. They're too weird for their own good and have some of the most BS level segments imaginable. Again, fucking animal antics! Ooh. Now granted, some of these are more inconvenient problems and they don't really impact the game too much. But they're still problems. That's not biased, that's just me being fair. Compared to the complaints I had of the past games, yeah, I'd say this is fair. It's a sequel, it's meant to improve, which, honestly, I'd say it does in almost every single way. It's got better levels, better music, better bosses. Hell, it's even got a better look. You can tell that Rare improved on their sprite work here. Honestly, I'd say it's the Shrek 2 of monkey-based platformers, and I don't use that statement lightly. Or at all, because it doesn't really apply. But I think it's that good. But with that comparison, we unfortunately come to a somewhat similar fate.
I look down at my shadow, realize I've been walking for a long time, still on the hunt. I was running low on bananas. I've been eating them on the road. Still searching for the perfect inspiration.
I feel like I'm almost there. But I can't seem to shake off this feeling that there's something else going on. It's not easy out here. But I gotta do it. Puncher 3, you're next on my hit list. And I'm coming for you. I got 2 bananas left, and they're all for you, buddy. Let's rock.
Alright, no BS in here. I don't like this game. It's my least favorite. But I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just underwhelming in a lot of areas. So let's get it out of the way. I just think with what the second game set out to do, this one just... it's just disappointing, I guess. The game's a lot easier than the previous 2, so the extra challenge that the series is known for is alienating to a lot of veteran players and even new people going through it. I never played this game until recently, and I gotta say, it's a game. Starting, it's much different, because with the originals, you kind of just go in with a little exposition. Or, the story within the little manual that tells you what's happening. But you actually have the option to visit a few characters. There's an entire overworld that you gotta go to for areas. You don't even really get that much of an explanation of what's happening. So, if it's your first time and you didn't do your homework, go fuck yourself. You don't get the story. Ideally, you're not missing out on too much, and it's kind of weird, maybe inconsistent. Basically, what the guide tells you is that Donkey Kong and Diddy are out on vacation, so go bananas. Not to mention, there's no real mention of any K. Rool or his weird alter egos, and that's kind of an issue. There's no real stakes involved, so why an adventure is needed is beyond my understanding. Now, I know that I've been making a big deal on story, but that's because gameplay isn't all that much. The first two areas, Lake Orangutanga and Cremwood Forest, are terrible levels. They don't really do much besides introducing you to what this new game is like. And it doesn't even introduce you to much new. That's like every couple levels or so. Some of them don't even really make sense given the theming. Like, I love Skidda's Row, but why is there a snow level amongst all this forest and sunshine? Like, I don't get it. Amongst these two areas, there's what? A single tree, 3 sawmills, 2 dock and harbor levels, and a minecart level, even though it's not a minecart. But yeah, honestly, it's not all that special. But once you get past Eric the Spider, that's when the game finally does its job. Now, like I briefly mentioned, outside the first two areas, the game's actually pretty good. It's not groundbreaking, but it still does more in a lot of the areas than before. You got areas with heavy industrial themes. You got a whole area in the mountains. And as you ascend through them, you're climbing up through all the danger. Hell, you even go through a few canyons, underwater, sewer pipes. In terms of diversity, this game's got some weird stuff, but it's still pretty interesting. And it doesn't really deviate like it did in, Lake Orangutanga with Skidda's Row. Like, come on. The hell, guys. Before, the levels changing things seemed very jarring, and any mechanics they introduced didn't get expanded upon in that level or world, so they come off as absolutely useless. Like, for example, there's a new animal buddy, Ellie the Elephant. She gets 2 levels to be introduced, and, well, all we know is that she just carries barrels, and she's afraid of mice. That's it. They're both bad, or at least mid. That's it. There's a later level on where she ascends a waterfall and she's able to shoot water. Isn't that interesting? Each level mechanic introduced now gets enough time to be fleshed out, and it's very neat. There's a level that shakes things up with Squidder inside of a factory setting, but the gimmick is that you're being shot at off screen. The only way to know where it's going to be aiming is a little reticle that follows you around. It's a real intense chase. So precise placement of your webs is an absolute must. There's a level towards the end of the game where you gotta climb up a canyon, but the only way up is just a single burning rope, so good luck. There's 2 different pipes, one with 0G and then one with reverse controls, so that makes it interesting enough. There's an underwater level, and you gotta make sure to feed this fish, or he absolutely fucking murders you. Look, it's got some creative ideas. It's just sad, I wish the game had a stronger start, and honestly, I wish it didn't get as bad as a rep as it does. Hell, the bosses are probably some of the most ambitious and creative ones I've seen. That I've seen. Even in the first 2 areas, they seem a little intuitive, using some mechanics or implementing ideas you would never really think of. Belcha is a giant barrel, but you gotta throw barrels at him. Or no, you gotta throw beetles at him, and it's basically a big sumo match. Eric is an animal-based enemy that you can't just jump on. You gotta hit him with barrels. There's a snowball fight in this. Like, if that's not a creative idea, I don't know what is, man. They're not the best, I'll fully admit, but the ideas are there. Some range from way too easy to too complex to even stupid, and I swear to God, if this goddamn spider doesn't stop, I will smack you with my ring hand. What else is a bit of a bummer is the music. It's so forgettable. Hell, while I was writing this, I didn't even remember what the music sounded like. I had to listen to it, and I had no idea what the hell this was. If you ask me about a song from the first two games, chances are I can tell you how it goes or even what the name is. But to be honest, all I remember is the wrinkly cave music, the Bear Brothers theme, and the file select. Sure, if you play a track, chances are I could at least guess where it's from. But, yeah, I just don't remember it. I wouldn't consider it bad, but there's something about it that just doesn't feel the same. I guess that could be said for the entire game. And, well, alright, brief side tangent, but I gotta mention the elephant in the room. No, not you, get out. I mean this little gremlin, Kitty Kong, or Blue Pants McNannerhands, as someone might call him. I don't like him. He's the bane of my existence. He's a smaller DK, and the best thing about him is that he's able to bounce on the water like a skipping stone, which, like, what the fuck? How does that work? Screw it, I don't care. He's really slow, he's heavy, and honestly, if you're playing the GBA version of this game, he's got the most horrific thing known to man. I will not play it for you, so if you remember that, you're welcome. Aside from that, he's such a nothing character that his inclusion seems bizarre. And, well, honestly, for how much I've praised it, I can't say it's a bad game, nor can I say it's really good. It's honestly middle of the road. Like I said, it's a lot easier for a lot of it, and just tone down the general feel. Almost like they were trying to appeal to a new audience this late in the game, but just missed the mark. Now, I use this kind of argument all the time, but perhaps if it wasn't under the Donkey Kong Country name, it probably would have been received better. Hell, people would probably look back on it somewhat fondly. Sure, we still wouldn't praise it like the second coming of Christ, but, you know, I feel it wouldn't be as hated. Maybe it could have been called something like Dixie Kong Country, you know, considering it was her second main role, or, you know, even Kitty Kong Country. Just something to differentiate it from the main series. Now, this is just all the hypotheticals and speculation, but there's something there. I know it, but I don't know why. Like, Rare just didn't do anything with it. They kind of just added it for the sake of marketing, well, that's just my opinion. And honest to God, I want to give this game the benefit of the doubt that I feel it deserves, but I can only say so much. In the end, it had the potential to truly cap off the series, but it didn't fully capitalize on what made the others so grand. And that's a shame.
Even after all 3 games, I still felt lost, but continued on anyway. I felt that I got what I needed to say, and so decided to head home.
I finally did. I think I finally know how to rate this video. I'm going home to make it. I'm never doing this again. This was a weird idea. It's for a good cause. The games are good. Just the jungle's not for me. It's not for anyone.
Overall, with their warts, these games are still some of the most enjoyable experiences on the Super Nintendo. Hell, I'd say in gaming in general, they're that up there. Now, before you get at me for that first line, let me explain. I don't enjoy these just because they're good despite their flaws. No, I believe they're actually solid platformers that hold up today. And even with their flaws, they don't detract from the overall experience, both visually and gameplay-wise. Each of these games did something to improve the platforming world as we know it, and this is saying a lot, considering this was the golden age, I would say, of platformers. And there's still something that's so special that even games today can't truly replicate. You have big open worlds, or, you know, a fantastic mechanic in these levels, or some other third thing. You can have all of that, but you just can't have that same sense of class Donkey Kong Country had at the time. Even now, yeah, there's still 2 other pretty good games, but they're just not the same. Even some of the best series that are trilogies, or at least follow a storyline in a trilogy sense, there's at least one major dud to be found, sometimes tainting it or even just not being remembered. Donkey Kong Country doesn't have this problem, and yes, I will die on the hill that Donkey Kong Country 3 has had a bad rap. But honestly, like, what really made it so great is that it felt like you were following this journey one step after another. You followed a saga to the end. Each game was a major event, and well, all this may sound crazy. That's what made it so great. It made it the perfect trilogy of games. There's nothing else to it. It's just simple. It's there. It's Donkey Kong Country.
Hey, you enjoyed watching the video? Or at least the part where I talked about the game instead of doing this dumb Fear and Loathing homage? Well, subscribe, please. Please do. I walked around for 20 minutes in a public park. This was hard. Anyways, I'll see everyone in the next one.